Hello and welcome everyone to episode 10 of A Better Magic podcast, brought to you by Team Better Magic out of beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. This is your host, Jared, and today I've got my buddy Nick on the line. Say hi, Nick, to everybody.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
So it's been a little while since we've done a podcast. We've got a lot that we want to talk about and get through today. A ton of super exciting stuff that's going on kind of with our team and with the Magic world in general. A lot of cool new stuff coming out. We just got through a Pro Tour, so I want to talk a bit about that. But yeah, so I mean, let's talk about some of the stuff we're going to talk about. So I have played a ton of Dragons of Tarkir draft already, and I really want to bring some of my insight to you guys about kind of what I've learned from the format, what I've seen people play, what I've seen the pros play, what I've seen streamers play, what I've played, what some of our team members have played. I want to talk to you, Nick, a little bit about that too, because I know you've had some good experiences too. And we'll also talk through kind of how it compares to the decks we were playing in Khans of Tarkir and Fate Reforged. So that's going to be super fun. We've also got a really cool kind of, not necessarily a partnership going on, but we're hooked up with a really cool brand in the Magic community. So I'm excited to tell you guys about that. And like I said, we just got done watching a Pro Tour in Brussels where some interesting shakeups to the standard format were revealed to us and came about. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and some of the interesting stuff that actually happened on camera at that Pro Tour. Some things that maybe shouldn't have been caught on camera, and some kind of ethical and philosophical questions to deal with as far as kind of the highest level of play and what should and should not be shown at those events. And our buddies at Channel Fireball brought some really cool decks and some not cool decks, and had some interesting some interesting ideas on the Dragons of Tarkir limited format that I want to talk through too. And we also saw some really cool breakthrough cards. So I know I want to talk to you a lot about those, Nick. And to round it all out, there's going to be some sweet Judge promos coming out, and I'm super excited to talk about those too. Oh, and GP Las Vegas is, I think, less than a month away now, so we'll touch on that a little bit too. But before we dive in, how have you been, man? You haven't been on the show, I think, for a couple episodes. What's been going on in your Magic life, in your Magic career?
Well, there's unfortunately with my schedule being very small, I've been sort of focusing on Friday night Magics. About the only time I can get out and play.
Yeah.
And then when I'm not doing either of those, I am working on my cube. That's still a work in progress. So besides those two things, there's really not that much time availability left in my schedule.
You know, before we jump into the docket here, can you tell us, I know there's been a lot of changes on the website pukatrade.com, right? There's been a lot of things shaking up within that community. Actually, I know they just got done with a very successful Kickstarter. They're going to implement some new rules, but you probably have a better idea about some of that stuff than I do. And I know you've very recently had some really good experiences using that platform. So, I mean, if you want to tell some of the listeners about kind of what you've been through on that platform and the good experiences that you've had, I think that would be beneficial.
So Puka Trade's definitely one of those up-and-coming sites that is almost... I would argue that it's the safest form of Magic the Gathering card trading. Not only are you connecting with anyone across the world, but you're also not only just going after stuff you want, but others are going after the stuff they want too. So, I mean, you sign up with your account, and you probably the hardest thing to do out of all of it is putting down your collection of cards. So I think that takes probably a good amount of time, and as any Magic player of long time of playing, you have quite a few cards, and so after that, I actually ended up spending probably an hour or two just putting that collection up there.
So you mean literally creating a list of all the cards that you have that you know are probably worth trading, so other people can see it, right? I mean,
exactly.
That's the whole point. Okay.
Yeah, so you don't want to throw in, a 20-cent card or a 30-cent card.
Right.
For what you're posting, it's usually, I would say, at least a buck or plus in value, because you do have to pay for shipping, and that's the big thing. So if you are, just trying to get rid of cards and you don't have a limit on where to send to, you may pay $20 for shipping a $1 card to Japan or
Oof.
Poland or something. So, I mean, it can be heartbreaking, but you do have the option to say who you want to trade to. It just depends on how badly you want to get the Puka points. So after you do that, there's a special little tool that will allow trading, and it'll automatically match up with other people across the world, which is very helpful because you can spend countless hours trying to find random people to trade with.
Mm-hmm.
And so you literally, you click the card that they want and that you have, of course, and you double check and make sure that they're still wanting it. Or at least that's what I do. And
Do you mean you like send them a note? Because I know within the platform you can also send private messages to people, and say, hey, are you really looking for, card X, Y, and Z, and then figure out kind of like a multi-trade, especially if you're looking for a bunch of stuff you have. You can kind of jigger it so you don't have to send a bunch of different packages in a row. You can just send one and save yourself a little bit of money. But
exactly. So I mean, and if all fails, it's always nice. Nobody on the face of the earth would get upset that someone messaged them to double check and make sure they still want this card.
Yeah.
I think one of the downsides I find, and I wouldn't say it's exactly a downside, but if you don't have near mint cards, then it's really tough to get rid of them, or you take a significant cut out of your Puka points. Some people,
and that's after the fact, right?
Yeah, that's after the fact. So like if you have a $3 card and it's like SP, they may only offer you like $1.50 or a buck, which Puka points would be 100 points.
Yeah, so the way Puka points work is the guys who own the website pukatrade.com have done a lot of research and a lot of consulting with, real live, economists to figure out this sort of digital currency that they've created. Not unlike Bitcoin, it's essentially trading a digital currency for Magic the Gathering equity. So for every 100 points is a buck, right? So every point is a cent. Essentially, and the algorithm is that they have in place on their website constantly checks all the different price sites to come up with kind of an average fair market price for each of the cards that are desirable to people, and for people to get those cards, they look across the inventories. Nick was talking about uploading a collection. Across the collection of all these people who say, I have, all these cards, they find the card they want. They say, please send this to me, and it deducts that digital currency from their account the second they say that they want it from you, and then it's on you to ship it to them. And you get those points from them once they've done that. And it's cool, man. I think it's a fantastic idea. It's a cool place to park some of your equity, especially if you can ship off cards that you aren't playing with. Then they essentially... You get instantly the digital currency equivalent, and if the market gets great and the equity of that digital currency goes up, then you've essentially made an investment for what the price of shipping an envelope. I mean,
yeah.
Is essentially what it comes down to, and that's super cool. The only scary thing about it is it has to be a digital currency in a market that continues to grow and thrive, and there has to continue to be people trading within that currency. Because if for whatever reason it all goes away, then I mean that's really the only scary thing to consider. But
I think this is an interesting statistic, but PukaStats shows that there are 9.1 million cards available being offered at the second, and only 403,000 are wanted.
Wow. Okay.
So I think, what's that, 1 in 36?
Yeah, you're way better at that kind of stuff than I am, but that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's always going to happen because you put up your entire collection. It's not like everyone's going to want every card unless you're just
Right.
sitting around with like a bunch of modern, legacy, and standard staples.
Right. That's the other thing, to kind of warn people that are listening who get into it. A lot of the people who use Puka Trade now are really people who are interested in moving their cards while they're at their height of their value, moving into cards that are undervalued and hoping to move off of them when they're worth more. There are people who understand the market very well who are playing within this environment. And you need to know that up front. And if you don't care, and if you're someone who's just moving all your stuff, at maximum price and stuff that you're just never playing with to get other things that you do want to play with, more power to you. But just know that those people exist and are out there, and which is good news, right? Which means there is a group of people out there who do probably want your stuff if it's any good. And I'll go on the record saying I think Puka Trade is a pretty good place to park some of that equity. So
I think for those that haven't joined yet, they still considered it in the beginning. They're known, but they haven't made that step from good to great. And I think with this Kickstarter going as successful as it did, I think with the stuff that they're going to be offering, could very well turn it from like a tier 2 to a tier 1.
Yeah, I agree 100%. One of the cool features that they have actually that they're going to add to Puka Trade because of the money that they got from the Kickstarter is a kind of direct conversion rate between digital Magic the Gathering online cards and physical cards. So now if you send your cards to someone that wants to play in real life and they need your cards and you get the Puka points for those, then you can go to people who have things from their digital collection up for your Puka points and kind of transmute your collection that way from digital from physical into digital product and tickets and Magic the Gathering online tickets, which is something I am incredibly interested in doing. If I could move the vast majority of my cards, all of my cards except for my cube, into Magic the Gathering online stuff, I would do it in a heartbeat, like no question. And Puka Trade is going to be the place, hopefully, for us to do that, and that is ridiculously exciting.
I wonder, with them doing that, I wonder if it's going to make Magic the Gathering cards online more expensive, just because the easeability of acquiring these online cards.
Well, that's a really good point. I think what it will do is actually raise the value. If it is really impactful in the market, it'll raise the value of physical cards, right? Because more people will want to get rid of them at decent prices. It'll be a price race for Magic the Gathering online tickets, but I don't think the price of digital cards is going to go down because the market's already so liquid. Like, you can always sell to bots, and they're always live 24/7. I don't think that market is going to change, but I think we will see a change in the physical market of people moving cards like crazy and are trying to get the maximum value for them. So.
And just want to throw that out there for those that are skeptical, they did this past month, in the month of March, they did Puka Trade a Black Lotus for the first time ever.
Yep, that is true. That's so crazy, man.
For I think it was 700, 800,000 points.
Just something ridiculous. Yeah,
just something ridiculous. So I mean, power is being traded through Puka, so don't be too skeptical. There are others that are benefiting greatly from it.
Right. And so, I mean, it's obviously someone trusts it enough to make that kind of trade, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's probably all you need to know about it. But yeah, so anyways, I'm glad we got a little bit of a chance to talk about that because it is super exciting. And it's a cool environment that I only hope continues to grow. So. All right, dude, let's talk about Dragons of Tarkir Limited. I've drafted almost 30 times online, and however many, I don't know how many weeks it's been, maybe 6 times in real life now. And I have learned a whole heck of a lot. I've got a bunch to talk about, but what have you seen so far? I know you've really only been able to play it in real life a few times, but you've been really successful, right? So I mean, what have you found to be kind of the most successful strategies when drafting with like real people? Because I've got my experiences with kind of the digital crowd, with the whole world, but at the F&M level, kind of what are your experiences?
Well, I think it's interesting because I've only been playing limited full time for what, 2 months, 3 months,
Right.
since I transitioned from playing standard, and like I don't know what it is about Dragons of Tarkir, but since it came out, I've been performing extremely successful
Yeah, you've been on just on a roll,
through
man.
an FNN level, which to the audience may not be that great, but there is some really good competition that's there. Um, I think the
Yeah, I
last
think regionally, I think even in our town in Indianapolis alone, I'm not afraid to say we have some of the highest level, people around. I mean, we really do. Um, and that's really kind of the whole atmosphere and the whole crowd is very competitive. So I mean, we're always playing against people who know what they're doing. So
exactly, and so I found it a little bit shocking that I've performed as high as what I've been, compared to previous times. And since I'm still sort of relatively new to the world of limited, and I still will make mistakes that a limited player should know versus like a standard player, which are two different, complete play styles.
yeah,
So I mean, and it's ironic because I've been playing the same two colors since Dragons came out, and even the pre-release, I was playing the same two colors.
so are you forcing it? Because that's not good.
No, it's not even forcing. I just get the signal, and it's like I don't know what it is, but I just see I praise the color red in this limited format,
Yeah.
and I don't know what it is about others that think that there are better colors beside it, but I pick up one red card, and I can pick up a second 2-drop red card, and then a third version of it. It's like that are very good 2-drops. I'm just like, how is this possible? And it got so ridiculous. I played mono red one weekend, just in a group of 10. So I mean, it's just like
Right.
I don't understand. Maybe people don't understand how good the format is, or maybe I'm just personally just drafting better than others.
Well, it sounds like so if you were in a 10-man pod, that means you actually got to see just like way more packs than you should. So
Mhm.
not only is red, I agree with you 100%. I think red is like super super deep in Dragons of Tarkir, and it's very good. So there is a chance your packs were just super deep with it, and a lot of the picks are playable. So I mean, more power to you, man. And you got to see so many more picks than usual that you were able to make, a good deck with it.
And just to tag on to it, I don't think people understand just how good Dash is. Some people just don't like it because it's not actually advancing your board state. But if the right Dash cards come through, you can make a incredibly difficult deck to play against. And
Yeah,
and a lot of people have found out. So I mean, it's just me, but I praise red, and the secondary color, if you need one, really just is icing on the cake.
yeah, agreed 100%, man. The black red deck is actually just insane. It's good. I was never a big fan of Dash in general, but there are enough tools now in this format to where it's actually very good. Because I think not having board equity can really hurt you sometimes. So you have to be very good to kind of do the math and know when you can dash and when you just need to play guys. But if you get the right guys on curve, most of them get dashed once and then get played, and that's kind of if that's a pattern you take with all the guys that you draft and the way that you curve out, then like you're pretty much always ahead on damage and even in board state eventually. And that deck's insane. I know Kenji's drafted probably as much as I have now, maybe even a little bit more. And more than half of his decks are red black, and the majority of the ones he's won with is red black. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree 100%, man.
I have an experiment in other colors besides um, red, black, and mono red. I think if I saw the right cards, I would love to try blue, white. I would love to play black, blue, that archetype, or even black, white warriors. That's really still sort of there,
Yeah,
but it's just I feel every time I'm picking, it's just I feel like there's always a better card in red, or
yeah.
I personally probably my favorite card out of the black red archetype is probably Butcher's Glee.
Oh, me too. Oh my god, dude. So in that deck you get access to, a bunch of just easy dash guys like Kolaghan Skirmisher. The dude's just like a 2/2 for 2, or you can dash him for 3. You get access to the Imp that dashes in the air for 2. You get access to the 5/4 Sprinting Warbrute.
Yep.
That's a 5/4 for 4 mana that dashes in. Card's fantastic. At uncommon, you get the
Fate
3/3.
Reforged. The Fate Reforged dashes too.
Yeah, but in Dragons you get the
Yeah.
3/3 dash guy that dashes for 3 and makes all your other guys dash for 1 less.
Two
Like
less.
it's 2 less.
Two less.
Oh, that card's insane. Then I've only ever played it once, but and then you just get to back it up with removal spells. Like Twin Bolt, and you can just end the game with a Sarkhan's Rage, which I think is really an insane card. Um, Yeah, that deck's fantastic, and then cards like you get a ton of really good combat tricks like Coat with Venom, which gives you guys Death Touch and +1/+2. I think it's really really good. I think it's always essentially trading for a 1-for-1. Butcher's Glee, which oh
Oh.
my god, dude! So you're attacking with like your huge things, right? And you don't care what the heck they block, because all you do is you keep 3 mana up to give it +3/+0, which is probably killing whatever they block with. First off, then he gets lifelink, so all of a sudden that entire turn becomes this huge life point swing that they have to then overcome on their next 2 or 3 turns, right? And your dude gets
Regenerate.
regenerate. So like even if they kill it, you're probably killing their thing. You're getting this giant life swing, and you still have your guy, and you've 1-for-1 their best creature, and it's like, oh my god, that card is just a total blowout 90% of the time.
I couldn't agree more, and that's a high pick, and um, I wouldn't pick it. I don't think I'd pick it in any other archetype besides red black,
I think I agree with that, yeah.
because like black blue just sort of has its own way of playing, and
Right.
combat tricks isn't really a thing for black blue, um, and then I don't think there's any black white. I actually haven't even seen someone attempt black white,
I
but
played it once or twice, and it's okay when you get the warriors for it, but even then, most of the creatures stand on their own. I mean, one Butcher's Glee wouldn't be that bad, but you're so much slower than the dash deck. I don't even know if it's good.
yeah, and that's just the thing is that with a lot of people thinking that, I have a Dragon Lord Silumgar, I'm just gonna play that and a bunch of these other dragons, and realistically, from a limited point of stance, like they take forever to play,
Yeah, and you just kill them.
and you just kill them before they even bother, and they're just like, I got so much value in this deck, but you're not winning the game.
I know. I love the red X, the red and any other color matchup against the blue black deck because so I played like 30 games now, and the format really has evolved over the last month and a half. Because at first everyone had this, was super valuing the blue black deck, and I think it is good, but I think it's the easiest deck to kind of identify and say it's good. Like it's the easiest one to be like, oh, that's an actual deck you can build. Okay, it's good. Let's build it. But that doesn't even necessarily make it the best deck. And what
Yeah.
it does is it makes it a bit overdrafted at tables, so it's hard to get all the pieces to come together. And it's very fragile if you don't have the pieces that are lower on the curve and can be exploited using the exploit mechanic to get value in the late game. You can get all the really strong exploit cards you want, but if you don't have that kind of underlying baseline of cheap creatures to exploit away, then the deck's just not very good. Um, but that's why I agree with you. I love all the red in this set because it matches up so well against all that. Because as they're trying to get value against your deck, you just like get rid of all their stuff. You just blow up all their stuff before they can
Mhm.
exploit it anyways, and then all of their creatures are just mediocre at that point. And the matchup's just such an easy win most of the time. And so many people are trying to build that deck that red really tends to be open, and I think that's awesome. I mean, my favorite deck in the format so far is easily the green-red deck. Like just the big stompy, play your stuff on curve, have sweet removal spells in the form of, Tail Slash, Epic Confrontation, and just get out these huge guys that are very efficient on curve, and majority of them have trample or give trample through effects. The Sabretooth Outrider guy is a 4/2 for 4. with First Strike, and when you have Formidable, which is really easy to get in that deck, then you just have like a 4/2 First Striking Trampler. That card's insane.
What's the what's the 2/4 with Vigilance?
Oh, I love that card.
Uh-huh.
Circle of Elders is my favorite green card for
Oh,
sure. So it's a 2/4 that wears like combat tricks super well. You always get to attack with it because it's a 2/4 that has Vigilance, and once you have Formidable, you can tap it to give you 3 colorless mana in your mana pool to like play a ton of more combat tricks. So you get to like attack, then they don't expect you to tap it for more mana to use more combat tricks, and it makes holding up combat tricks a lot easier for you, and it makes them less likely to read you on what combat tricks you have, and it just makes combat a breeze. And that card is totally bonkers, and he
I
wears
think
any sort of aura you put on it like amazingly well. So
I think it's ironic that um, we talk about, you say how green is very good, and then CFB just comes out and says we think green's the worst, and then
I know
look at
yeah.
their Pro Tour limited record on that.
Oh, you're 100% right, man. So there was, so it's interesting. So if you go and you listen to the Limited Resources podcast with LSV from Team Channel Fireball, and Marshall, who's a guy that we all love and respect, they were talking a little bit in depth about this, but how green might not be the strongest color. In fact, it might be the weakest color in Dragons of Tarkir, which I don't know. I have some contention with that point, but it's still very, very good. But Channel Fireball, through all of their limited testing, just decided it was not even worth playing at all, right? So if you go back and you watch someone like Shahar Shinhar, world champion twice in a row, he's only 21 years old, amazing limited player, amazing Magic player in general. He goes on that mindset, that they crafted in those training sessions, and he says, I'm just not going to touch green. Right, and his first pack he opens, I don't even remember, some rare that wasn't green, gets past like 3 Stampeding Elkards in a row, and like some other good commons and 1 or 2 uncommons. It just doesn't touch them, right? Doesn't touch them again in the next Dragon's pack, and he gets past some crazy stuff, and he just forces this not as great just blue-white deck, I think. And then in Fate Reforged, he opens up a Sandstep Mastodon. Right? I mean, just super punished just because he has this bias that might not even be true. And the majority of Channel Fireball went X3 in the first draft, and I think Paulo Vitor De La Rosa or whatever finished, 4-2 at best, because there's 6 total rounds of limited over 2 days. And he went 4-2, and he was the best performer. Most of them went 3-3, or a couple, like Paul Cheon went 2-4, and these are good limited players. Like, these are some of the best players in the world, and just because they went into it with this weird bias, which you should never do. You should just always draft the best. All I can say is that if this teaches you anything, it's that you should always draft the best deck at your seat. And it was just kind of disappointing to see those guys have that kind of record just because they were not willing to change how they played Magic.
And I think it's interesting because LSV even came out and said that from the get-go, like, they just would rather pick a mediocre card in their color instead of picking, even very early on when they had the signal to switch colors, that they just decided not to. And that really sort of questions what kind of things, what kind of prep they were doing for that Pro Tour.
Yeah, it's just so weird. I mean, he talked a little bit about it, and then just in their drafts, they just never thought the green was good, as far as win percentages go, and these are some of the best players in the world building some of the most finely tuned decks that you could ever imagine, and I guess in their testing, green just never won. So, I don't know. I guess if that's the kind of data you want to go on, whatever, more power to you, but it obviously was incorrect. So.
And it definitely cost them.
It cost them big time, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they had really good standard decks. So, but we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I don't know. I've enjoyed this limited format so far. I'm gonna keep playing it. Gonna keep streaming it. Gonna keep making some videos. But how do you think it compares to Khans of Tarkir and Fate Reforged in particular?
I honestly think that you actually have to take more effort into drafting. Like, for example, your Fate Reforged pack, you open a Citadel Siege, You just like, oh, it looks like I'm going white.
You
know?
mean in Favorite Forge Cons draft?
Yeah, Fate Reforged Cons, and it was so rare based, and I absolutely hated it.
I did too.
And like, it was basically based on how lucky can you get with your packs.
Totally.
And the new drafting of Dragons and Fate, you have more pressure upon you to draft a better deck, and that's where I think it's more skilly oriented compared to the past set of drafting. And I like it. It actually makes me think a little bit more. And, it sucks when you are 2 colors and you see this awesome rare in your Fate Reforged pack. And it's like, I don't really want to hate pick this, but it's a siege. Do you want to lose to a siege?
Right.
No, so, I mean,
yeah.
Like, I know in our previous FNM, our Fate Reforged pack was the Green Siege. And I got it as a foil, and I'm picking the rare, which fit my colors, so I automatically picked that.
Sweet.
And the guy next to me also opened his pack to a foil Green Siege.
Really?
So at one point in time, we had 2 foil Green Sieges just going around the table.
That card's not even good, really, in limited. I mean, it's just like having 2 Llanowar elves, like.
Yeah, so I mean, I know someone ended up drafting them, and just because they're rares, and right. it's just I like how it's not rare based anymore. Heck, most of my decks only consist of 1, maybe 2 rares, if that.
Well, I mean, that's just good.
That's
magic,
just how
right?
it is. Yeah. I mean, and the fact that we're back to running 2 colors, or supposed to run 2 colors, just makes it even better, because now you're not dependent on tap lands.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you 100%. I mean, I think what LSV has already kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think what he was saying made a lot of sense to me. Like, this format isn't even super exciting or super different than what we've played in the past. It plays a lot like a core set, right? So it plays a lot like just good 2-color Magic decks where you build where you get rewarded for being a good limited player who can build a deck with a curve with the highest quality cards that come around to you in the 2 colors that are most open in your seat, right? That's good Magic to me. That's the Magic I want to play. I don't want to be rewarded for knowing those things. And I think this set has that in spades. And I love it for that reason. It's, like I said, it's not super exciting, but it's just good Magic. Whereas you're right, Fate Reforged was just 100% variance and a total, throw of the dice.
And a lot of pros actually didn't like drafting it either.
No, they hated it. Yeah, I mean, and for the same reasons we don't like it. I mean, it's just not fun when someone opens a Citadel Siege across from you and you don't. But it's interesting though, because so I say all those things, but then cons, just triple cons, was also I personally think I think a lot of other pros agree was one of the most interesting draft formats ever in a long time, because it was different. So like where Dragons is a lot like a core set plays, where you build a good deck with a good curve, Cons was a lot about understanding that it was a unique draft format. Understanding that you were drafting 3-color decks and then doing your best to build your deck within those parameters. And I thought that was super interesting. Like, I love Triple Cons draft. I really, really thought it was quite good. So it's been a really cool kind of roller coaster ride.
I do miss morphs. You don't see them too often anymore in Fate.
There's still a lot, just not as many as there were in Cons. Yeah. But there's still a pretty high percentage of them. They're just in the form of Megamorphs now, but that's, it doesn't cost any different to put them face down.
Yeah, I miss them for some reason. I don't know. There's a lot more morphs involved in Cons, and I like the little, the hidden surprise factor.
No, it was awesome. But there's still a lot that you still have to play around a lot of that, man. I mean, there's been plenty of games I've lost where someone turn 3 puts down an Atarka free, but you don't know it, right? And then you maybe are off curve or you don't want to throw away your value 3-drop, and then they attack you and they deal you 7 points of damage. Like, that's not fun. So there is some of that. But no, I get what you're saying. But yeah, so anyways, that's essentially how it compares to those formats, and it's been, like I said, it's been a really interesting kind of roller coaster ride to watch and play through. So before we move on to the Pro Tour, I want to mention really fast. I kind of hit on it for a second that as a streamer and as a Magic the Gathering Online player, I've been given an invite to create some video content for the guys at Brainstorm Brewery, kind of on behalf of Team BetterMagic. So if you're listening to this, we really appreciate it if you go and watch those videos and click back through to our stream and give us a follow. So the video series is just me drafting in 8-4s. Usually 4 videos of drafting, match 1, match 2, and match 3, with all the deck building and me talking through my picks and through my plays, and I'd really appreciate any feedback I can get from those. And if you can do me a big favor, like I said, watch those and click through the links to get back to our Twitch channel and follow there. Would be really, really awesome, and we would really appreciate it. But you can find those videos on just brainstormbrewery.com. That's all one word. And then our Twitch channel is twitch.tv/BetterMagic. And BetterMagic is all one word as well. So, but yeah, like I said, I want to make sure you guys go and you check that out. We'd really, really appreciate it. It's been awesome to have this opportunity to do to make some of that content for a really cool brand and get our BetterMagic and Team BetterMagic brand out there. So, cool. Do you want to talk about Pro Tour Brussels?
Yeah, let's go ahead and hit that.
All right, man. So last week, what I think is the largest number of players ever were qualified for this Pro Tour because it was the last one before they implemented the PPTQ structure. So it was a pretty, I don't know, maybe 450, 500 players. It might be more than that. All got together and coalesced in Brussels in Belgium for Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. So there were 2 days, 2 different days. The first half of each day was limited, so draft, which we talked a little bit about. The Channel Fireball guys kind of having a bad day. And the second half was constructed, right? So 6 rounds of constructed, so 18 rounds total. And then a third day where the top 8 get together in that last day and they play all the way through to the finals. And it was interesting. We saw a lot of decks that we kind of figured were going to be there with a bit of modifications. 1 or 2 new decks, which is kind of interesting, but mostly the same old with some slight modifications. So it was interesting. The Pro Tour was won by a Danish guy of Asian descent named Martin Dang, playing what was essentially a red deck wins, splashing some green tap lands and some wooded foothills to be able to play the card Tarka's Command, because it made it so damage couldn't be prevented and you could deal 3 damage directly to your opponent's face. And some other stuff, like some fighting between your creatures and their best creatures. And he took down Yasuka, I don't know, some other guy whose name I can't remember, from Team MTG Mint Card, who was playing a pretty cool take on the blue-black deck, which is essentially an Esper control deck with both the Dragon Lord Ojutai, who's the 5/4 flyer with hexproof, and when you hit them, he loses hexproof when he attacks, and if you hit them, you draw a card. And the Dragon Lord, the drifting Death, Silumgar, who is a 3/7 hexproof blocker that kills all their low token guys. So those decks were really cool, and they were kind of all over the place at the Pro Tour. In fact, the Channel Fireball guys, there were a couple of them who kind of stuck to the traditional Jeskai tokens deck just because they were very comfortable with it. But the rest of them played a variant of that Esper Dragon's control deck, which I think is pretty much the best deck in the field. Like I would argue that it was the strongest deck at the Pro Tour. And they were all very successful with it. Like we mentioned earlier, just because they were so wrecked in the limited rounds, they weren't able to make it through to kind of the higher levels of play. I think the best team member made it to top 16. And again, it was on the back of that Dragon control deck, which is playing just infinite counter spells, big dragons to kill you, and a new spell in the form of Foul Tongue Invocation, which makes your opponent sacrifice a creature at instant speed and, for 3 mana, 2 colorless and a black. And if you control a dragon or reveal a dragon from your hand, you gain 4 life. So some of that life gain was super, super relevant in a lot of these matchups, especially that the red matchup, which was kind of, like 50% of the field or something. I mean, just totally, totally, totally ridiculous. Um, but that's kind of the high level cap a recap of the entire event. But what did you see? You got to watch a little bit of it, right, Nick?
Yeah, I got to see a little bit of it. I watched, let's see, Friday was day one, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I watched probably 3 or 4 rounds of day one, and then I watched I think 1 round of day two. The downside about this pro tour was that it was held in Brussels, so the time zone difference was a major factor
Yeah, it was
in
super
us.
weird.
So I think it was Brussels is +7. So when it was 7 a.m. here in shiny Indianapolis, it was like 2 o'clock there, and they were well underway into
Yeah.
the middle of the rounds, middle of the day. So by the time the West Coast woke up at like 10 o'clock, the day was essentially over already, and that definitely probably showed with the fewer viewers watching this pro tour.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I think viewership overall was kind of way down for what we typically expect for Wizards, which I don't know if that really matters all that much, but it was definitely noticeable, yeah.
Yeah, and you also noticed on the usually with every pro tour, there's at least 1 or 2 cards that spike, and we're
Mm-hmm.
talking that get bought out severely and jumps up from like $1 to like $10 or $11. This time we really didn't have any breakout cards that just went up to an extremely high amount, but
Right.
I mean
I
there
mean,
is
on the back of that Dragons deck, like Dragon Lord Ojutai started kind of creeping up,
Dragon Lord
and
Ojutai, Dragon Lord Silumgar, essentially all the Dragon Lords went up a little bit in value,
yeah. Dude,
and it's
online, on Moto, everyone was trying to build with Ojutai, and people hadn't drafted the set enough for them to be very many of them out there in the wild. And Ojutai spiked at like 30 tickets for
yeah,
like a regular copy. That's crazy. That's totally
yeah,
ridiculous.
it's just I don't know. It sucks that I didn't really get a chance to watch as many rounds as I wanted to, but then like I said, time difference definitely played a big factor.
Yeah.
Nor was I willing to wake up at 3 a.m. and to watch the opening of day one, day two, or day three. No,
Yuck.
thank you.
Those are for the true diehard fans.
Well, I mean, technically Saturday morning, I was working at 3 a.m., so I technically could have started watching right
Oh.
at, but I don't think so.
No, I do not envy you, but that, man, that totally sucks, yeah. But no, I mean, all in all, I think it was a good Pro Tour. I think everybody learned a lot. I think the decks that were tuned to be played in this specific format were tuned the way they needed to be, and we ended up with, again, what I think were the two best decks. That kind of mono red deck just blasting through all the control decks, and the Esper control deck itself with the dragons were just super good. I mean, I think those were the best decks, and one of them needed to win, and that's what it came down to. So.
Yeah, and I didn't even notice that Adrian Sullivan was placed fourth.
No, yeah, I mean that it was him playing that control deck. I mean that's his thing. He's been playing forever. It was his bread and butter, and the guy who that's the main deck that he plays all the time, and uh, give him a format where it's insanely good against the field, he's probably going to do super well. So.
And comparing to other pro tours, this list is completely different from previous pro tours. Like Justin Cohen, I didn't think made it very high
Right.
in the.
No, he's still a rookie. To be fair.
He is, but as he did play second in the pro tour, and then
Right.
so I mean, it doesn't that some it just shows how some people are just better in different formats, and some
Right.
people just aren't. So it's interesting, and you see there's not one dominant archetype in standard, and it seems like every week I look at the Star City Game Open, there's always a new deck winning or something that was tweaked compared to instead of like Jeskai tokens every week or Abzan
Right.
mid-range.
And that's good. I think that speaks to how R&D has really, really, taken to making these super wide open standard formats. I mean, the last time we saw things really messed up, in a bad way, was maybe like blue-white control with like a Sphinx's Revelation and stuff.
Oh, those were good
I
days.
mean yeah, the deck was sweet, but it's like it
was
was
way too
the best
powerful.
deck. Yeah, I mean, and Wizards, I think, and so when you think about it, if that was a year ago, if that was a year and a half ago, then that was really 3.5 years ago when Wizards created that format, right? And
Exactly.
since
Yeah.
then, they've grown in their understanding of how to make things more balanced, um, which means we're gonna, as things progress, especially as formats are now gonna rotate 4 months faster than they, or 8 months faster than they ever did before. We're gonna see that really kind of play out, um, and these standard formats will be a lot broader, and make a lot more sense than they ever did before. Like you're really gonna be hard pressed to find one deck that breaks out and stays the best deck, like it used to be. I know people have been saying that for the last like 5 years, but I really believe we've turned the corner in the past 6 months.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Just to touch on with Pro Tour, did you see the bannings for standard, modern, and legacy?
No, what are you talking about?
There was no bannings.
Nice. See, there we go. Oh, that was a perfect setup.
Yeah, so I mean, it just adds, it's, it shows how balanced the game is right now.
Yeah.
And, we're in a good state right now. And, hopefully, Wizards aren't perfect, but, they're pretty spot on at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if we're not seeing any emergency stuff, if we're not seeing things that are premeditated as far as what needs to be fixed, then yeah, I mean, as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So,
If it ain't fixed, don't break
if it
it.
ain't fixed, don't break it. Um, but seriously, it's so cool. That's a good thing for the game. And if you care anything about uh, the environment, the society, the culture, and growing it, and making it better for everyone, then this is a good thing. This is exactly what you want to happen. And if you care about your finances in this game and how much your collection is worth, that matters too. Like to preserve the value of the cards that you've collected, you need the game to be popular. You need people to want to play with the cards that you have, and that doesn't happen when the game is broken. It just doesn't. So yeah, so it's just a super good thing all around, and I don't know. I'm glad the game is where it is now. But yeah, before we move on though, some of the breakout cards aside from the dragons, the one we didn't talk about was a Den Protector, and that was in a bunch of decks actually,
Yeah.
which is the 2-mana 2/1 that can only be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. And if you Megamorph it up, he gets a +1/+1 counter and becomes a 3/2, and then you return something from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah, it's just it was just sort of, we saw it when we did the pre-release, but we never really brewed that it would be as good as what it truly is right now. And it's interesting how these cards are affecting the standard scene.
Yeah, the card, is super good in one of the weird breakout decks that didn't do great but did okay was like the Soul Flayer deck. And it just like put a bunch of stuff into the graveyard, which is normal Sultai tricks, and then had Den Protector to get back like stuff that it needed, and then the rest of the time you just play Soul Flayer and like delve away a Chromantive Core and get like every effect under the sun on like a 4/4 flyer, which is kind of cute, but
Maybe one day, maybe that card will break out.
maybe. I don't know. But anyways, Den Protector was in that deck too, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought the card was super cool. So anyways, more power to all the guys who got to play the Pro Tour. I think it was a pretty good one. And congrats to Martin Dang. And one day, that'll be us up there playing the Pro Tour, enjoying it, having fun, getting to go to cool places like Brussels. So
We can only dream.
we can only dream. This has been a great podcast so far. I think we've gone through a lot of actually really interesting stuff, considering the past couple of weeks there hasn't even been that much going on. Not even that big of news, and I don't think we missed anything. I know GP Vegas is coming up in less than a month. Channel Fireball has already announced that it's officially the biggest Magic tournament of all time. So that's a cool record that they've already broken, and they still have 3.5 weeks to get more people to sign up. We're broadcasting this on the 21st, just so I can timestamp this, just so you guys know. That's kind of the record as of now. And they have until, today to all the way to when it launches to break that record, totally smash it in half and double it. And we'll actually have 2 GPs in Las Vegas on the same day if they get another couple thousand people registered, which is ridiculous. So that would be really cool.
If I remember correctly, I checked the tweet earlier today, and I believe they said they had just hit 4,800 people going.
Oh, that's amazing! Yeah,
with a month left, that's insane. Like,
that's so cool. Yeah,
and it's just a little additional reason to show up that if I think they reach 7,000, I think they're going to give away a Black Lotus.
They are. Mm-hmm.
I think the 4,800. I think they said they're giving away several foil Stoneforge Mystics. So, I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot of great side events that are apparently already being sold out.
Oh, totally, yeah.
At a month ago, which is just insane to hear about.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Not only a great place to go check out and the sites and whatnot, but also a lot of opportunity to, play some good Magic with a lot of very, very good Magic players.
Yeah, if it might be too late to sign up, but if you got the hookup, with somebody in Vegas and you have some place to stay, go for it, man. I mean, drive there, get it done, make it happen. That would be you got to do it. Got to go to Vegas once in your life. I'm not going to make it this year, but hopefully we'll make it in the next year or 2 years when they do Modern Masters again, because they'll have the same event again, which is super exciting. So before we wrap up here, you want to talk through some of the judge promos that have been kind of revealed for this next season of judging and how that kind of affects people's finances, and then we'll close.
So they released a total of 6 promos that are not only judge promos, but I think World Cup of Magic promo, which I don't know. I don't really know that much about it. One of the interesting ones that I think everyone wondered was why they're making a second Wasteland judge promo.
Yeah, super weird.
I don't know how that, these list of cards come up and get voted into, but apparently the original judge promo Wasteland wasn't good enough.
This one has a new art. I mean,
yeah, I think the one that I'm most interested in is Ravages of War.
Ravages of War is legit because it lets you have 2 Armageddons in your cube.
Exactly, and if for those who don't know, the original Ravages of War is like $450. Mm-hmm. So there's no way I was going to be able to afford that anytime soon for cube. But I would definitely be interested in picking this up if it was like in the 200s.
It's the same art, right? It's just foil. Yeah. So sweet.
And you get a new Damnation, which now competes with the full art one. And and I also like the World Magic Cup one promo Thalia. I think that art looks amazing, and I think I need all of them except for Feldon of the Third Path. Yeah,
the Thalia is going to be, I don't know. I mean, the only way to get it is to be invited to the Magic World Cup, but there are a lot of people who get invited to that. Mm-hmm. At the same time, how many of those people are going to sell it? I don't know. And if they do, are you going to be able to find one on eBay? So it might be a little expensive, but the art is bonkers. So
yeah. And don't forget, we also have the PTQ Liliana that's going to be going out in circulation soon.
Oh, yeah. Everyone who qualified for a PTQ by winning a PPTQ, if they show up to wherever, like I said, the regional PTQ is, they'll get it's all alternate art, right? It's just foil.
It
shiny.
is alternate.
Oh, it is?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so anyways, they get a special Liliana of the Veil, which is pretty cool. It's going to be a very limited supply. Not that many people get invited to these things, and less than the number of people who get invited actually show up. So it's going to be a tough item to find on the market, but it looks really cool.
Yeah. Ironically enough, the PTQ, the one that's coming up soon, is held at the place that I work at. So I'm definitely gonna try and
Nice.
get my hands on one. I doubt I'll be able to do that, but it's
Maybe.
you can't argue for trying.
Yeah, no, you got you. If you get one, more power to you, man. That thing is gonna be beautiful. So.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna guess it's like in the high 100s, maybe even low 200s.
Oh, easily.
I don't know if it'll be as comparable as to a pack foil lily, but
Yeah, but people want to get their hands on them, so.
yeah, I know. Well, like me,
Yeah,
I want the
exactly.
Chinese.
Exactly. All right, man. I think this has been a really good podcast. I think, again, we apologize for taking a little bit of time off, but I think it gave us a good chunk of things to talk about kind of in this, what is essentially a dead season for Magic the Gathering. So I hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope you guys continue to listen. We're going to get back on track. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to hit the subscribe button on this video, and we really, really appreciate it, and we are really excited to continue bringing you great content. Anything else before we go here, Nick?
I think we've hit everything. Hopefully, we'll get some new people up on our podcast in the upcoming weeks. Hopefully, we can get some new voices on here.
That would be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it, and I want to make sure you, the fans, get to meet the rest of the team BetterMagic, because I think everybody has a bunch of great information to share. So again, thanks, Nick, for being a guest. We had a ton of fun recording. It's always a pleasure. And for you guys listening out there, until next time, don't forget to keep playing BetterMagic. Thank you.